Last week we discussed a little bit about the chiv adlaka is the main chiv adlaka is one person per household, and there's mahadrin and mahadrin and mahadrin. We discussed about the first ner, the second ner. Now there's another interesting question that comes up a lot, which is, since the chiv adlaka, we know there's two chiv adlaka. One chiv adlaka is for the household. Every house has to have chanukah, and which means one person in the house has to light an ikar adin. There's mahadrin, there's mahadrin min mahadrin. And there's a chiv to light in the shul. Its own chiv adlaka. And if someone lights in the shul, they go ahead again and light in his house. It's two separate chiyuvim. One's a chiyuv in the shul, one's a chiyuv in the house. Now, this chiyuv in the house, that means a person, there's no chiyuv on the person that he has to light. There's a chiyuv in the household. Every household has to be one person lighting. So it's not a chiyuv on me, individual, every individual that you have to light near its chanukah. It's not a chiyuv on every person separately. So now, a person who's not home for the night, he's away, so he's traveling, and he's on a plane, let's say, overnight. So if he wants to go ahead and light on, let's say he would be able to light on the plane, there's no chiyuv for him to light on the plane. There's no chiyuv to light any place that you are. The chiyuv is, on the household, it has to be one ner per household. But it's not a chiyuv on the person. It's not like a regular mitzvah. A regular mitzvah is a chiyuv on the person to put on tefillin. It's a chiyuv on the person to take a lulav and esrog. Ner Chanukah is not a chiyuv on the person himself that he has to light. Therefore, if someone's not home and he went away to somebody else's house, there's a whole shayla in the halacha achtzanoi, a guest, whether he has to light or not. I'm going to your house. I'm staying there now. Now, do I have a chiyuv to light or not? There's a chiyuv in the household to light. My wife, let's say, is home, and she's lighting for my household, my house over there. Now, I'm away. I'm at somebody else's house. Do I have to go ahead? Is there a chiyuv for me to light or not? That's the question of achsanoi. So the best thing for achsanoi, if someone who's a guest by somebody else, is to be mishtatif for prut. That means you pay him a little bit, and you say, I'm part of your mitzvah, and when you light, you might see me also for my mitzvah. It's called mishtatif for prut. That's what there's a suffix. Now, how about if I'm leaving my house for the night? My family, everybody's leaving my house, and we're going to stay at somebody else's house that night.
The whole family.
The whole family. So now, there's no chiyuv in my house anymore. For example, we have it all the time, kids coming to their parents for Chanukah. So now, once you're staying in a different house, maybe there's a chiyuv, to go ahead and light. The whole family left, there's no chiyuv in your original house. Now, you're coming to a different place and you're staying in a different place. So if I'm renting someplace else, I'm going to a hotel, let's say, and I'm staying there, so definitely I have a chiyuv to light, because there's no one else lighting there. Huh?
Now this is your house.
That's my house. Now it's my house. Nobody else is lighting in that place, right? So there's a chiyuv on every household to light. The only question is if I'm coming to your house and there's already a chiyuv in the household to light. So and the fact that I'm there, do I still have my own chiyuv to light or not? But if you're going to a hotel, or you're renting a place for chanukah, you're going away, then there's definitely a chiyuv for you to light in that place, your own chiyuv, because no one else is lighting there. How about, which is also a common shayla, someone goes to a hotel for Yom Tov, for Chanukah, for 2 days, and then he leaves. He's leaving, so he's leaving on, let's say, Tuesday, and he's leaving, let's say, at 7 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock at night. So there's man adlaka, 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever it is. And now when he's traveling, he's going to go back home. He's not going to get home till 11, 12 o'clock at night. So when should a person like that light in their chanukah? Should he light it in his original place?
Is there anybody at home?
Let's say there's nobody at home.
He's traveling with his family.
Yeah. When does he light?
From New York to Canada.
Yeah, from New York to Canada. People travel all the time. So New York to Canada, it depends. If you're flying...
No, by car, by family, right?
So usually by car, you usually leave in the morning, and you get there at night, so you light at night. If you leave right after Adlakas Neiros, so there's a question. If someone's leaving right after Adlakas Neiros, he's in light, and then pick himself up and go travel 8-9 hours to New York.
Before dawn.
He'll get there, he'll get to 2-3 o'clock in the morning.
So
right?
it's dark out when you
It's still dark outside. So if he's going to arrive after it's very light, so there's no question, he can't light when he gets there. But a person is leaving his house and he's traveling for a couple hours, the next couple, he'll come in the middle of the night. When does he light? So such a person is a question, because since the chiyuv is on the household to light, on the house, as long as it's in my house, I have a chiyuv to light. So when it comes 6 o'clock at night, I'm home. It's a chiyuv for me to light. I'm home. This is my house. What are you going to say? No, an hour from now I'm going to leave and I'm going to sleep someplace else. It doesn't make a difference. As of now, your house is here. As of now, your house is here. Therefore, you light over here.
So you make the mitzvah and continue.
You carry the mitzvah, and then after I light, now I'm changing my dwelling. After I already lit.
That's exactly my son's going to happen this on Thursday.
But your son,
He's
coming here
from New York.
Right.
He's leaving Thursday night after I lock on there. He'll get here at about 1 o'clock.
Right. So he'll light
there.
in New York.
Yeah.
The question is, somebody who goes to his parents for Shabbos.
Yeah.
Right. And he's just for Shabbos. So Canada, if you go, let's say an hour away, 2 hours away. So you stay in Motzei Shabbos, you stay for the Chanukah party that they have, and then afterwards you leave and you go back home. So what are you going to say? It's still my place. A place that you went just for Shabbos, it's hard to say that's your house. If you're going back to your house that night, Motzei Shabbos, the person lives an hour away from his parents. He's traveling, he also has parents Erev Shabbos, he lights Erev Shabbos by his parents. Because he's going to be there for Shabbos. Motzei Shabbos is going back home, but he wants to wait. He wants to first enjoy the Chanukah Mesiba, the Chanukah party where he is, and then he wants to leave and go back to his house. So you can say the same story we said before. Shabbos, this is your dwelling. And it's still my dwelling, and then afterwards, when I leave, I'm going to change my dwelling back to where I was at my original home. There it's much worse. Because there, your real dwelling is your house. For Shabbos you could say you're here by your parents. Your real home is your house. So to say that the place that you were for one day is still continuing until I decide to leave is much harder. Here's where the big machlokes in Achronim what you should do.
So it's better to light very late at night at your own house.
Oh, that's the question. That's the question.
Maybe
it's better to right. So some people will say it's better to go light in your house and then get back later at night than to light where you stayed for Shabbos, because where you stayed for Shabbos is not really your dwelling. And since you're sleeping in your house tonight, maybe it's better to light in your house. Some people say no. Since Shabbos was your place, it's still called your dwelling. But this is all only when you're by somebody else for a day or two. If you're leaving your own house, everybody agrees that when you're leaving your own house till after you light, it's still called your house. Till you decide to leave, it's called your house. That's not a question.
You have to leave like 5 minutes after you light. You should still light. Yeah?
Yeah, you light.
Even though you're not going to be there for a half hour.
Right. You still light, leave it. And if you don't want to leave it, because it's unsafe, so wait a half hour and then put it out. You shouldn't put it out from the half hour.
If you can't put it out within a half hour, light in the sink or what?
Yeah, we'll let somebody else come in.
Yeah.
Let somebody else come in and put it out.
Right.
After half hour, you have no problems. After it's lit for half hour, it's lechatchila. There's no problems at all. You can put it out, even on a regular night. Even on a regular night, if you just don't want the candles burning there, lechatchila, you could put out the candles. It's not a problem. So that is the chiyuv of the chiyuv of the house, and the no chiyuv on the person. Now, everybody living in the house spoke as Mahadrim. Ladies are also mechuyev in Avlakas and Chanukah. So therefore, if you...
Can I just ask one question about lighting late?
Yeah.
You're supposed to light while people can still see it coming home from the shuk.
Correct.
Principle, right? But we hold now that people work much later, right?
Right, so now a lot of places
gives you
say...
room to light very late. If
a lot of places say that Tichla Regel in Ashuk, meaning when people start walking in the streets today, is much later than it was in those days.
The government stay somewhere for Shabbos. You could look at it two ways. You could say that is his abode over Shabbos.
Right.
Or you could say, well, he's not in his home, so therefore he should just pay a peruta or whatever it is to a household.
Right.
In order that he should write night in his bed.
Right.
So you could look at it either way.
Correct. You're right. The main thing is that a person lights himself. Usually we don't not much the pruta, only in certain situations. But especially if the whole family is not home, your wife is still home. So really your chiyuv is in the house, and your wife's your shliach lighting in the house. So then we'll say if a person was by himself and his wife is lying at home, then he will start to put like a achsanoi. But if the whole family left, and now you made your dwelling, your abode now in this place, then already you lie by your own with a bracha, no problem.
Sorry, then
you lie on your own.
Not in your own.
Yeah, you lie on your own with a bracha. Only if your wife stayed home, so she is really being mighty you on your chiv of lakas nevis, then you'll be mishtat for pruta. Now, I see two very interesting halachas by Ner Chanukah. First of all, one halacha is that Ner Chanukah halacha is moichrim ksusai. It means if someone has no money, every mitzvah, the halacha is by every mitzvah that you spend up to a fifth of your nechasim to be mekayim the mitzvah. Lulav and esrog, if you don't have enough money, a mechuyev up to a fifth of your nechasim to spend to go buy lulav and esrog. But if it costs more than that, or if you don't have any money, you're potter. You're not mechuyev to go ahead and borrow money to go buy lulav and esrog. Ner Chanukah is different. Ner Chanukah, the halacha is, if you don't have any money, you're mechuyev to borrow money. You're mechuyev to sell your clothing. Moichrim ksusa, even to sell the clothing to go ahead and buy Ner Chanukah. And not just that. The halacha is that if you have to go work and rent yourself out to somebody for an hour or two just to make money for Ner Chanukah, you're mechuyev to do that. You have to do that also. Ner Chanukah has a chumrah of causes pursuing nisa. You have to do whatever you could in order to light Ner Chanukah. Baruch Hashem today is not a very common child, but that's the halacha by Ner Chanukah.
But when you think that because it's divrei sofrim that it's supposed to be less important than say buying a lulav and esrog,
correct,
which is the mitzvah to say.
Correct. The svara would be that way. That the mitzvahs they write should have more of a chiyuv than mitzvahs derabbanan. And the answer to that is because Chanukah is presuming nisa. Chanukah, the mitzvah of Ner Chanukah, is the mitzvah of fasting. Everyone should see it. Everyone should know about it. When it comes time to pursue nisa, we're much more machmir than regular mitzvahs.
But this is like just one candle.
This is like just one candle per household. For Mahadra and Mahadra, you don't have to worry about it. There's only one per household. Remember, when we were Baruch, they used to have a chakira. The halacha is, you have one there in your house. You only have one. And you can't get a second one, whatever the reason is. And you could either use it for Ner Shabbos or for Ner Chanukah. So the Gemara says, use it for Ner Shabbos. Because Kvayt Shabbos is Adif. Because of Shalom Bayis, the Gemara says, the Ner Chanukah comes first. The Ner Shabbos comes first. But there's no halacha by Ner Shabbos to Moichel Ksusay. There's no halacha like that. So Ner Chanukah has a Mal Yusa over Ner Shabbos. The Ner Chanukah is a chiv to go sell the clothing to get a Ner Chanukah. So now what happens? Somebody doesn't have a Ner. There's one article of clothing that he could sell. And he goes ahead and he sells it and he buys a Ner Chanukah. And it's Erev Shabbos. What should he use that Ner for? Should he use it for Ner Shabbos or for Ner Chanukah? Ner Shabbos for Ner Chanukah, Ner Shabbos Adif. But the halacha is for Ner Shabbos and Moichel Ksusay. So he has one article of clothing itself. He sells it and he buys a Ner Chanukah. He buys one Ner. Now he has one Ner. What do you use it for? Ner Shabbos for Ner Chanukah, Ner Shabbos Adif. What would you say? What should the person do?
Ner Shabbos needs to go borrow money for Ner Chanukah.
Does he borrow again for Ner Chanukah?
No, he didn't borrow first. He sold clothing.
So clothing. So
I would say Ner Shabbos.
you would say Ner Shabbos. Because it's Adif.
Oh, yeah, it's more frequent.
But then the Ner Shabbos, you wouldn't be to go sell your clothing for it.
That shouldn't matter. It's still the Shalom Bayit
Just because you did sell us from.
Yeah, but
it's still the Shalom Bayit issue, and it's the
if it's regular Shabbos, you don't have to go ahead and sell.
You can't use Ner Chanukah for anything.
You can't use Ner Chanukah. You can't be Ner from it.
No, I'm saying, but then Ner Shabbos was for the light.
Right.
So they could eat properly.
I'm saying it's a regular Erev Shabbos.
Even if he sold it, so.
But yeah, but if it's a regular Erev Shabbos, there's no light in the house, nothing. Are you mechuyev to go ahead and sell your clothing to go buy Ner Shabbos? No. You're not mechuyev. So now I went ahead and I did it because of Ner Chanukah, because I have one Ner. So so you're saying, of course, now they have that Ner, you have to use it for Shabbos. Right? That's what you're saying. What? That's what you would say.
That sounds logical.
It sounds logical. It's not brought down halacha the challenge.
It's a good question.
It's not brought down halacha the challenge. I said the opposite. I said you use it for Ner Chanukah.
Chanukah comes once in a while.
Why? No, because this Ner is not a Ner Shabbos. This Ner that I have now in my hand, this is Ner Chanukah. It's not a Ner Shabbos. It's a piece of clothing that turned into a Ner for Ner Chanukah. Shabbos can't override this Ner. Since this Ner, I didn't have to sell my clothing to buy it for Ner Shabbos. So now that I have this Ner is a Ner Chanukah.
I would say that a ner only gets defined as a ner of Hanukkah once you put it in the chanukia and you make a rough on it. And then now it's expressive.
So you say
Before you've done that, it could be a ner for anything.
So you say once you sold it, once you sold the clothing you have a Ner, it's Shabbos or the Shabbos comes first.
Yeah,
Okay. This is an open discussion. This is you take either side you want. Anyway,
It's not logical. If you just have one Nair, and you're saying it has to be Shabbos,
yeah.
so then you have to go and sell to get Hanukkah. Like, I don't see where you're going to be in a position to have just...
If I have one Ner, it's for Shabbos, right?
Yeah.
But I don't have any Ner. I'm coming as Friday afternoon. I have nothing. I don't have any Neris, and all I have is one article of clothing that I could sell for Ner Chanukah.
In any Shabbos, you wouldn't have to sell anything.
Any Shabbos, you wouldn't have to sell it to buy
You
it.
don't have to have a candle.
Erev Chanukah, you mechuyev to go ahead. On Chanukah, you mechuyev to go ahead and sell your article of clothing to get this Ner. So now that I have that Ner, I bought it and I have it. Question what you use it for? I'll leave it for the to discuss.
So I said there's
over
no...
Shabbos. It's not put that place. It's a chakir that you could, either you could look at it, now you have the Ner, Shabbos is all different, or you could look at it, no, this Ner.
Someone in that situation, the community should help.
That guy needs help. Santa, fit that.
But that's a chakiro, that's a shadow.
More than a candle.
Anyway, so but you see that this Ner Chanukah has this adifus. It's much than any other mitzvah than Markin Ksusa. The reason is because Pesum Nisa.
Is it the only mitzvah that has that?
And the Arba Chaisis by Pesach.
Right.
Another interesting thing we see by Ner Chanukah is that Noshim are mechiyuvim in Ner Chanukah. Noshim also have to chiyuv to light Ner Chanukah, and the reason is because the Gemara says she'af heim hayu ba'is nenes. Noshim also were mechiyuv in that nes. Now, let's go away from halacha a little bit. Trying to discuss over here what does it mean af heim hayu ba'is nenes? We know the next Chanukah was what? They found the Pach Shemen. They lit it for one, they had enough light. One day it lit for 7 days. That's what we come to celebrate. Extra 7 days, right? It lit for 8 days. The first day, which is the famous kasha. The first day, what was the nace? There was no nace in the first day, and we celebrate for 8 days. So, what does it mean when it says in the Gemara that Noshim af heim hayu ba'is nenes? Ladies were also included in the Nes Chanukah. What Nes were the ladies included in? There was two Nisim over here really. There was one Nes that we had, which was the Nes of the Milchama, the fighting of the Milchama. That was one Nes. Now, we don't see anywhere that we're lighting the Neris of Chanukah because of the Nes of the Milchama. It says the reason why we light the Neris of Chanukah is why? It's because of the Nes that it burned straight for 8 days. Right? That's why we light the candles. So we say that Noshim are mechuyev in Ner Chanukah. Why? Sh'af hein hayu ba'is nenes. They were also included in that nes. Which nes were they included in? They were included in a whole different nes. Yehudis gave to the tafsir, gave to the furnace to cheese, and then she killed them. What does that have to do with the Neris of Chanukah? It's two separate nisim. So when the Gemara says Noshim are mechuyavos in Neris Chanukah, af heim hayu ba'is nenes, what does the Gemara mean? How are they included in the Nes Chanukah? We're celebrating the fact that the oil burned for extra 7 days. Good question? No one has an answer, must be a good question.
Well, I mean, it's a whole question about what is the nes itself of the oil.
Meaning?
The miracle of the oil is not really
We're celebrating?
that remarkable.
It could be, but what are we celebrating?
Well, one could argue that it's the phrase that Rabbi Baruch uses, is that the nace of the oil is God's calling card to remind you that He was the one behind the victory of the
Okay, so
because
fine.
we have many examples of oil burning.
Okay, so let's move on. Okay, we'll get to there. I just want to prove to you that it's not just the nace of the Neiris that was celebrating. I mean, the truth is, the Meiri, there's a famous kasha, it's called the Beis Yosef's kasha, right? That why do we have 8 days Chanukah? The nace is only 7 days. The first day, it lit because they had enough oil. Right, so there's a lot of truth to it said in the kasha. And the Meiri gives a famous teres that he says that the first day we're celebrating the nace of the Muhammad, that we won the wars. And the other 7 days are that lasted for 7 days. So if that's true, it's an obvious question. So why the first night are we relying on Menorah? If it's to celebrate the nace of the Muhammad, so then celebrate the nace of the Muhammad for one day, and then 7 days light nails. Why are we lighting nails for 8 days? That's an obvious question on the Meiri's terms. You see from over here, from both of these questions, that we can't separate the two nisim. The nace of the Muhammad and the nace of the Neiris, they lasted for 7 days, really are together. You can't separate them. Say, yeah, there was a Muhammad, they won a Muhammad, then they came into the Beis Hamikdash and they happened to find the Pach Shemen, and they lit it 7 days. If you look in the Gemara in Shabbos, the Gemara says, what is Chanukah? The Gemara says that the Yivanim went to the Heichel, the Timu Chalashmanim, they found only one Pach Shemen and they lit it. Where does it say, and they had a Muhammad, and they won the Muhammad, and then they went ahead and they lit it, they lit the oil, and it lasted for 8 days.
There's a reason why it doesn't say it. They hadn't won the war. What they did was they succeeded in getting back Yerushalayim.
Yeah,
the Beis Hamikdash, because the war was going on for 20 years.
Yeah, but Chanukah is called chanukah. They rested on Chafei. There was some type of break in the Muhammad breakthrough that happened.
They got a day off.
No. The great victory was they got back the Beis Hamikdash.
Right, so that was the main victory.
Right.
So for them,
but the war wasn't over at all.
That's true.
A year later, when they made it into a holiday, they were still fighting a war.
Right, that's true. But the main part of the war they won was when they got back to Beis Hamikdash. Chanukah. What's Chanukah? Chanukah means they rested on Chafei. That means there was a certain resting of the Muhammad that because of that there was, I'll tell you even more. Al Nisim, right? You asked me the question last week. Al Nisim. You look through Al Nisim, what does it say? Only about the war. Right?
It says something very interesting now.
At the end. Yeah, but it says the whole beginning of Al Nisim is only about the war. They tell me they didn't win any war Chanukah time, so what are we celebrating? They definitely won. It was definitely out of ordinary something, and there was Nisim that happened in the war, and they got back to Beis Hamikdash that happened Chanukah. Even though there was some wars that happened later on, the main winning of getting back to Beis Hamikdash happened Chanukah. It was on Chafei Kislev. So that's another raya, because the fact that Noshim are Mechuyev and Adlakas Neiris, right, and they were only involved in the war, not involved in the Neiris at all. So what do we see from here? We see from here how you saw it to Chanukah, I think at least. See a very important side to Chanukah. There was a Muhammad, and the Yidden to a certain extent won the Muhammad. And what happened after that? They went to the Beis Hamikdash and they found one jug of oil and they lit it. And it lasted for extra 7 days. Hashem is telling us something over here. That when you have a Muhammad, and you won the Muhammad, and the Muhammad that we won, nothing to do with the fact that there were no signs, at least, the fact of that Klal Yisrael was learning better or davening better, doesn't say anything about that. They won. It was Shlagah Derech HaTeva. They won. Then they went ahead and they lit the oil. Hashem is showing us that when a nisim happens, when Nes happens to Klal Yisrael like that, and we just leave it as a Nes of our guf, we won, and we continue with the ways that we had till now, that's not what Hashem wants. Hashem wants, we had a Nes, Hashem gave us the Muhammad, we won the Muhammad. Now, I'm giving you a Nes of Ner Chanukah. Ner Chanukah, Torah Shabbat Peh, Hashem is showing us that if you're going to use it for the right things, the nisim, then we're okay. Don't take the nes that happened of the Muhammad and say, oh, we won a Muhammad, we're happy now, and move on. You have to take the nes of the Muhammad and use it for ruchnius. Take the nes of the Gashmias and use it for ruchnius. So now when the Noshim, that the Mechuyev had Lakas Neres, because they were involved in the Muhammad, yes, they have shaykhs to the nes of the Menorah. Because if they wouldn't use it for the right things, then the whole nes of the Muhammad is irrelevant. That's why you find in a few different things that we have the nes of the Menorah, the nes of the Muhammad, but they're all together. It's all together. Then you ask the question, why in Al Nitzim do we say the whole first part of Al Nitzim is the nes of the Muhammad? At the end it says they found that all the way at the end. The whole first part of Al Nisim speaks about the Nisim that happened during the Muhammad. No Nisim that happened of the Pach Shemen. All the way at the end it says after they found the Pach Shemen. Why is that? In davening, trust me, like the Neiris was celebrating the Nes of the Pach Shemen they found. In davening we have to give thanks to Hashem that He saved us. That's what we have to do in davening. Yishmach v'adaf Hashem our guf. That's what davening is all about. We give Yishmach to Hashem. We're not going into the ruchnis of what we do for Hashem. We're thanking Hashem what He does for us. That's why in Al Nisim, this will answer your question last week. That's Al Nisim. The main part of Al Nisim is thanking Hashem for the Nisim that happens during the Muhammad. Because we're not lying in the neighbors then. Then we're thanking Hashem for what He did for us. That's the Al Nisim. The whole first part of Al Nisim. But then we end off with Al Nisim and say, why do we end off with that? Because if we're just going to stay with the Nes of the Muhammad, and we're not going to mention with the Nes of the Pach Shemen, we defeat the purpose. Hashem is telling us, I gave you a Nes of the Muhammad, but use it for the right things. Use it for ruchnius. Use it for the same way I brought from the Nes of the Muhammad, brought you into a Nes of ruchnius, which is the neiris that lasts for 7 days. Make sure when a Nes happens to you, use it for the right things also.
I have a question. Were you saying Al Nisim, especially because Nisim are kind of mainly the war? You think about it throughout our history, and even many of us personally have experienced Nisim. When you say Nisim, you mean not necessarily against the laws of nature, but something very special happens just the right time when you need it, and the odds of that happening are very, very, very slim. So wouldn't you think it would be appropriate then to have a prayer for all the other Nisim which come about? Even recently, the recent war with Gaza, that was also to the extent a Nisim so far that we should have been overwhelmed. But and so many other national Nisim and their personal Nisim too, even overcoming recovering today say from brain or heart surgery. So these are also Nisim.
100%. No, 100%.
So why do we have special prayers for that?
So there's two things. First of all, when a yachid has his own nisim. Definitely, there's all lachs about it that make us say do, and every year when it happens, you have to remember it. And if you pass a place, the Gemara says that, and that's happened to you, you have to make a certain bracha for sure. And that happens to every person. You have to make sure that you thank Hashem for that nes. A nes that, it's very hard to differentiate. The truth is, there's something called a nes b'derech hateva and nes shloi b'derech hateva. Now, what do I mean by that? There's something called a nes. That the truth is, the fact that a person breathes every day, right? Chal Hashem v'talakah, akal neshima, have to thank Hashem, right? That's a nes. Someone goes through, like you said, an operation, a serious operation, comes out unharmed, everything is masliach. That's called a nes, that's melubish b'teva. It's dressed up in teva, and that's nisim b'derech hateva, and that's what we daven every day for. Every day in daven we're thanking Hashem, for all the nisim that happen to us that are dressed up in teva. Right? That's every day. Then something happens like a derech hateva. Everyone sees an open miracle. There is a chiv to make a separate thing to thank Hashem for it. Now you want to say that's by a yochid. How about by a tzibur? For the war, they won it, right? Or very few people, one person, 2 people got killed from it, right? And so many people could have gotten killed from it. Also, we have to thank Hashem for it, right? There is a din hadafa. When does the tzibur go ahead And when a nes happens to them, when do they make that Haidah? So today we don't set aside any Yom Tovim for a special Haidah for a tzibur. Times of Chazal we did, certain times Purim, Chanukah we did it, today we don't. So I do bring down that the tzibur should thank Chanukah time.
There were communities that did.
There were communities that did. Every year they would remember it, but they would remember their nes, or get together, they'll make a certain Haidah. You have that. Yeah, you have that. For a tzibur, for the Purim, the whole Klal Yisrael, that we don't have anymore today. That we don't have anymore today. But it's definitely true. A person is required to give Haidah every night. I'll tell you another very interesting devar to Chanukah. We have in 2 minutes. That another teretz that I heard why it's 8 days Chanukah. It's the famous kashrut. The first day there was no nes. And I don't know where I heard this teretz, but it's a beautiful teretz. The fact that oil burns, is that a nes?
Oh, I would say that all terrors is a nice.
Right.
All you need is a desperate to blow up or come out with a bomb.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact that oil burns, like the words of the Chayim Adaisa.
Vinegar can burn.
Right, the Chayim Adaisa said, the Shemesh Yad, even the Cholash Yad, he had vinegar burns, right? So the truth is, the fact that oil burns is a nes in itself. Right? But, the Gemara says, if someone's going to go give a shvach v'haidah, halal, every single day, the things are happening, harei ze mechara from a God, if it says. Because then, this yeah, this not. Everything, the whole existence of the world is a miracle. Right? So you can't go ahead and thank Hashem for every time you breathe. Pesukah Zimmer, we set aside Pesukah Zimmer to thank Hashem to go make your own halal v'haidah on the things that are melubish and teva. The Gemara says we can't do it. We can't do it. But if something out of the ordinary happens that everyone sees that it's a nes, then you go ahead and you give halal v'haidah. Right? That's what the Gemara says. You can't go ahead and you're not allowed to go ahead and give shvach v'haidah and say, oh, I'm breathing today, I'm going to go and I'm going to say halal today. But we have Pesukah Zimmer for that. We have the regular thank yous for that. To go ahead and say a special thank you when you wake up in the morning and you're breathing today, that the Gemara says, I raise a mechara from a gadif. Why? Because they showed that yesterday they didn't have to. Today, yes. Why? Every day you have to thank Hashem for it. So that we have Pesukah Zimmer, every day we thank Hashem for it. You can't make a special halal v'haidah for it. We're not allowed to.
But we say Modani every day.
Yeah,
we instituted that because they didn't want people to.
Right, say Modani, and even the whole Pesukah Zimmer. The Gemara says all the halukot of say Pesukah Zimmer is thanking Hashem for the miracles of the day things. But when a big nes happens, then we set aside a special halal. We say halal special for that. So the fact that oil burns itself is nes. So we have here oil burnt for 1 day. That's a regular day-to-day miracle. Then it lasts for another 7 days. That's out of the ordinary. For another 7 days, it doesn't happen. That's already chutz miderech teva. It's not meluba. It's not dressed up in teva. So what are we going to do? We'll go ahead and thank Hashem for the 7 days that the oil burnt extra. But the first day that the oil burnt, we're not going to thank Hashem for it because it happens every day, right? But it looks funny. It's only for the 7 days to thank Hashem, not for the first day. But once we're thanking Hashem for the 7 days that it burnt out of the ordinary, we could add also an 8th day to show that we're thanking Hashem for even the regular fact that oil burns every single day. That's why they will convey it for 8 days. So now it's a whole different haidah we have. On Chanukah we're thanking Hashem 8 days. Part of it is the haidah, even for the derech hateva, the things that we have every single day. The fact that oil burns, even the first day that it burnt is a netz. So that itself is already a shvach v'haidah to the Eibishter that we should give every single day. We can't do it every day. We have Chanukah, we throw it in together another day to thank Hashem for those also. Fine. You have another minute or?
I think it's true generally, people who you live every day, you don't have a consciousness to thank God for your breathing.
Right.
But people who survive a life-threatening accident,
they do.
They, the next day when they wake up in the morning, they thank God they open their eyes. They mean Modeh.
Right, and they mean it.
We say it because we say it, right? We should have a consciousness.
Right.
But people who just survive,
adapt. Right. And then when they
have a much greater consciousness of the miracle of life.
And then when they thank Hashem afterwards, something happens to them and it comes out alive. They thank Hashem. What are we thanking Hashem for? Not just for that miracle that happened to them. No. We thank for every day they were alive.
Yeah.
Why? Then you realize it. Then you realize it.
For every moment.
Yeah. Then you realize it. Same thing with Chanukah. Why is it 8 days? Because that first day, even though it's a regular, everyday happening, but once we're thanking Hashem for the out of the ordinary, we're thanking Hashem for the ordinary also.